Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Jashojit,
Yeah.
sir.
Good morning. I'm extremely sorry that there was some technical issues, so I'm a bit late.
Oh, okay, sir. No problem, sir. Sajjan, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Rema, miss, shall we start?
Yeah, we can start, sir.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all, especially the chief guest of today's webinar, Dr. Jesojit Devnath, Assistant Professor of Commerce in Nagaland University, Mahan Eman Sir, Principal of MES College Erumely, Mrs. Ramadevi A, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Ashokova Sir, MES Research Forum Coordinator, Jitesh KS, CDC Director, Sabjan Yusuf, IT Cell Director, and most important, all participants from various parts of India. The webinar, Empirical Research in Commerce and Management, is organized by IQAC and MES Research Forum of our college. MES College Erumely started in 1995 as the first unaided college under Muslim Education Society, and it is affiliated to MG University. Now, I invite Mrs. Ramadevi A, IQAC coordinator, for a formal welcome.
Good morning, all. It is my pleasure to welcome you all. Let me introduce myself. I am Rema Devi A, Vice Principal and IQAC Coordinator of MES College, Erumely. In this lockdown period, IQAC, Research Forum, and various departments of our college organizes a series of national and international webinars. Today's national webinar is on empirical research in commerce and management. We are putting up this webinar to give an awareness of empirical research. Today's session will be handled by Dr. Jesojit Devnath, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Nagaland University. Dr. Jesojit is with a lot of published research papers and published books to his credit. We are sure he is the suitable and outstanding personality to handle the topic. On behalf of IQAC and Research Forum, I welcome Dr. Jesojit sir to the webinar. A warm welcome to you, sir. The progress of an institution depends on the capability, competency, and skill of the head of the institution. We are lucky to get such a person as our principal. I cordially welcome our principal, Mahin sir, to this webinar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
This webinar happens only by the vision and effort of Dr. Ashok Kumar sir, Director of Research Forum. I welcome sir to this webinar.
Thank
Now
you.
I welcome Sabjan Yusuf, the Director of IT Cell, Jitesh KS, Director of CDC, Shiva Michael, the Dean of Student Welfare, and Hari Krishnan, the Student Coordinator to this webinar. Also, I mentioned the effort taken by the members of IT Cell and Research Forum. Welcome all of you to this webinar. Now I wholeheartedly welcome each and every participant to this webinar. Hope this will be a fruitful webinar to you, all of you. Once again, I welcome one and all to this webinar. Have a wonderful session. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam. May I request Dr. Ashok Kumar sir to give an introduction about our distinguished guest, Dr. Jasojit Devnath. Over to you, Ashok Kumar sir.
Good morning, everyone. It is a great honor and happy to introduce Dr. Jashojit, Assistant Professor, Nagaland University in Kohima campus in Nagaland. He have 11 years experience in the academic experience of commerce and research. And also he published 8+ articles from various national and international journals. And also 17+ lecture talk in the field of research in commerce and management in various institutions. And also he is a member of various academic bodies. Today, we are privileged to have an opportunity to listen the Jashojit sir lecture talk. On behalf of all gathered here, I welcome you, sir, to this webinar.
Thank
Over
you.
to you, Shiva ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Before we start the presentation, I request all of you please cooperate with us. You may please ask your doubts or questions through chat box or comment box. I wish you a great day and a successful webinar. On behalf of the management and staff of MES College Erumely, we cordially invite our principal, Mahin Emin sir, for a few words.
Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir.
I once again welcome our resource person, Dr. Jasojit Devnath sir, to present the webinar Empirical Research in Commerce and Management, organized by the Research Forum and Internal Quality Assurance Cell, MES College Erumely. Okay, sir. Thank you.
On behalf of the management and staff of MES College, we cordially welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Jasojit Devnath, Assistant Professor in Commerce Department, Nagaland University, for your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, respected principal of MES College Erumely, vice principal, ma'am, and all the distinguished faculties and the staffs of MES College. It's really a privilege on my part to get this opportunity to present a topic on research methodology and also how to conduct a research or empirical research in commerce and management. I also welcome all the participants who are participating from really nooks and corners of the country. Uh, Let me tell at the very outset that whatever has been told about me, these are all very high in repute. I hope I can justify my presentation today. And I request the participants that whenever you get any query, please note it down. Once the presentation is over, I'll be taking those queries, and to the extent possible, I will try to clear up your doubts. Just want to know beforehand, as since it was very raining in this part of the country today, so it took some time also to connect. So I'm really sorry for that. But I hope I'm audible to all the participants. Ma'am, can you please confirm once?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir. So at the very outset, I will try to share the screen. Please, any one of you can confirm whether the PPTs are being visible or not.
Visible, sir.
Visible, sir.
It's visible, yeah?
Yeah.
So in that case, I will start with the presentation on empirical research in commerce and management. I'll be, since the time was from 10 to 12, I think I can take 1.5 hours to have the presentation, and after that, whatever the queries, I will be taking those.
Yeah.
There is no problem, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So when we discuss about empirical research, actually it is a research methodology that makes use of verifiable evidence in order to arrive at research outcomes. This research relies mainly on evidence obtained through observation or scientific data collection method. Now, one thing is very important, that when we discuss about empirical research, we are saying that we are observing the problems, we are trying to measure the problems, and hence we also say that because of that reason, it is a scientific investigation. Now, when we discuss that why it is a scientific investigation, actually it means that there is a
Hello, sir.
process. And whenever there is a process will lead to one step, to the second step, to the third step. So in the next slide, actually, I'm going to discuss that what are the process that from start to the end of an empirical research. Now, when we do research in commerce or management, they may be based on primary data and secondary data. When we discuss about empirical research, it is mainly focused on the primary data or the collection of the primary data. The secondary data is actually used to just establish the theory of the problem. It actually gives you the support that how we are going to collect the primary data, and for that matter, this will lead us also to establish that what is the problem as such. Problem here means what is the topic in which we are actually going to do the study. In our language, we most of the time call it as a research interest or research topic. Now, again, when we discuss about empirical research, one of the most important component in today's research is the establishment of the theory or the hypothesis. Again, in my presentation in the later part, I will discuss in length about the hypothesis part. But since I have raised the point here, I just want to tell you that when you say we take a hypothesis, actually we are assuming a particular problem, and then we want to test that whether that is actually right or not. Now, when we discuss about the components of empirical research, there are four. I will be starting with the introduction, then we'll go to the research methodology, then hypothesis testing and data analysis, and the discussion and the conclusion. Now, you may also find in different areas some subtopics into these also, but I have taken it as a holistic way that these are the four components which are definitely there in an empirical research. I want to give a caveat here that I don't mean that this is the only way we can have the research. There may be some changes here and there, that there may be some some points, but you cannot have the hypothesis thing before establishing the research methodology or stating what is the research methodology. Now, first part will be the introduction. Now, when we say introduction, actually we mean that how you present the topic to your reader. See, we are doing a research and we know what we have put into our research paper or the PhD thesis, but the readers may not be knowing your process. So in the introduction part, actually, you are setting the tone for doing the research. Hence, in the introduction part, we start with the theoretical background of the problem. We go to the review of literature. We identify the research gap. Then we set the objectives that what actually we are going to do in your particular topic. And then we set the hypothesis. We frame the hypothesis, or you can say we formulate the hypothesis, and we test with the data whether the hypothesis is accepted or not accepted. Now, as I discussed that when we're setting the theoretical background, we are actually giving the idea that what the researcher is actually doing, what will be his findings, and how it will be beneficial to the society. Now, here at first comes the difference between research on science and the research on commerce and management. We all know commerce and management is a social science. In this case, the behavior of the people are different. Let me give an example. If I ask that to 100 respondents or 100 people that do you like Samsung mobile phones, it does not mean that every 100 will say yes. There is a changes in the behavior. The people's perceptions are different. Some may say they like it, some may say they don't like it. Even in the case that someone says like it, what is the degree of their liking? That also depends. But when you say science, the law of gravity is same everywhere. So we cannot say in commerce and management, my findings on a particular topic will be exactly equal to another person's finding on similar type of a topic in a different research areas. Hence, in the theoretical background, mainly we go with the concept of interpretivism. I'm not reading out that what I have written here. I will be sharing this PPT paper. You can read it in details later on. But here the interpretivism actually means that we are studying the behavior. People's interpretation are important. We have to understand that how the a same person will behave in two different situations. But when you talk about science research, you will find the concept of positivism, whereby it is collecting the data and that your finding will be similar in across the areas. Another thing is the theoretical background is the inductive and deductive approach. Now, when you say inductive approach, it means you are building the theory after collecting the data. What does it actually mean? You may also think over this. I'm giving a pause here so that you at least having some idea. I know in a webinar like of a situation, I may not be able to take the question as and when I put it, but if it is a face-to-face, the system is different. But before I put my point of view, you may also have some idea. Now, since I raised the issue, I will tell that when I say that in inductive approach, you build a theory after collection of the data, it means you are observing the problem in the natural environment. Now, what is again a natural environment? When you talk about natural environment, it means you are studying the problem, going into near the people, even don't say that you are the researcher, you see how they behave. Let me give you an example. Say you go to a particular restaurant to study the behavior of the people or the service quality of that particular restaurant. You don't say to them that you are a researcher. You go just like a normal customer, have the food, see how they are behaving with you, whether they are cordial or not, whether they are giving you the different options what you should take, whether their payment of the that bill have different options or not, like credit card, debit card, money or UPI, all those. That means you are in the natural environment. You are not telling that you are the researcher, but at the same time you are collecting the data, and then you are telling to the reader that see, these are the issues that I have noticed after visiting a particular restaurant, or I am doing a research on the behavior of the restaurant people, and these are my findings. So this part is the inductive approach, and the methods here is mainly the qualitative methods like interviewing, observation, as I just discussed about. Another your approach is the deductive approach, whereby you first study the theoretical background, maybe from different literature. You set the problem first. That means the problem in which you want to do the research. You set the hypothesis or formulate the hypothesis, collect the data, and then against the data, you try to figure out whether the hypothesis is accepted or not accepted. Now, again, in the later part, I'll be discussing in hypothesis in detail. Then I will tell about what are the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis and how to actually test it. The methods here is mainly the questionnaires, experiments, and maybe in question also you can go for interview schedule, whereby you can have a semi-structured or a structured interview schedule. So in that way, I mean to say that in theoretical background, actually what we are doing is we are setting the tone for the research so that people who are reading your research paper or your thesis actually understand that what you are going to present them, what is the food that you are going to serve them. Now, theoretical background depends heavily on the review of literature. If you find nowadays the funding agencies, for example, ICSSR, Impress, or Stride projects, you'll find that they want to have a classification regarding the international status of the studies being done and the national status. Now, I want to acknowledge one particular resource person whom I met in University of Hyderabad, and he said one very nice thing which I want to just reproduce. He was of the opinion that why you are doing a research, why actually you are doing a research? Again, it's a query I'm posting to all of you. You can think that why you are doing a research, why you write a research paper. You may have different opinions regarding this, but one of the most important or one of the unique thing that resource person commented is that you want to engage in an academic debate with those people who are doing studies in your area of interest. You may have interest on, say, insurance, you may have interest on banking, you may have interest on customer satisfaction, on particular, say, FMCG products, you may have interest on accounting. So you have to find out if you have interest in accounting, say, for example, environmental accounting, who are the other people who are doing the research on environmental accounting? So when we start with the international status, we want to see that globally how the people are doing their study, what are the different techniques they are adopting, how they are concluding their findings, what are the different hypotheses they are taking, how they are testing the hypothesis, whether their findings are contrast with other people. Because again, let me put a very important point. It does not mean that every time we have to support the people who have done a particular research. We sometimes we deviate also. We may have a different opinion or exactly different opinion that what are the previous research. Like for example, that Darwin's theory, survival of fittest. Now many people think that survival of fittest, that particular theory does not stand correct in today's world. So people are trying to have different understanding. Even the monkey theory of evolution of human people, many people does not believe into that. So in commerce and management or empirical research in commerce and management also talks about the same thing. Then in national status, you want to see that how your people in our own country are doing the research and what are the different areas in which you are there, and what are the different again, techniques they are adopting, what are their findings. Because you see, when you take our country also, it's a vast country, and the study in Jammu and Kashmir will be different than the your study in Kerala, or I may not. Yes, I may have a different type of an issue than your say Gujarat. Because I just want to say, I want to share that you may be aware that Meghalaya, it is a matrilineal society, but in other parts of the country, it's a patriarchal society. So those are the difference I'm talking about. So in the national status, you want to focus on that. You want to find out that how these research are being done and what are the important findings they are presenting. Now, one important point comes: why you are doing the review of literature. One thing is sure, you are setting the your in the background. You are setting the tone, the theoretical background you are discussing about. But most important reason of doing the review of literature is the research gap. Now, why you want to set the research gap? Because all the research or all the studies that you have done till now, you want to find out that which are the areas which are till now not penetrated, which are the areas in which there is still avenues to have a study, a meaningful study. This part is very important. See, you will find many research papers, or you may find some thesis also that we are putting the research gap. You will find that in this research gap are actually being presented based on the review of literature that have been done by that particular researcher. Here I want to give one example of one particular PhD thesis of Tiwari RK, which was submitted in the year 2015 in Guwahati University, Guwahati, Assam. regarding the financial inclusion of rural poor in Assam, a study in Sonipur and Kampur district. Now, when you discuss about financial inclusion, many of you know what was the program of financial inclusion. I'm not going into the details of what is the financial inclusion program. After this particular NDA government has come, even the financial inclusion program has been changed to this Jan Dhan Yojana and other things. These are just the advancement. Now you see, this particular researcher have given the gap in two aspects. One is the academic aspect and one is the geographical aspect. I took this example because I found it to be very interesting. Even this particular thesis is available in Shodh Ganga. I think you know about what is Shodh Ganga. It is the repository of all the theses that have been submitted for the award of degree PhD in India. So you can have an access and you will find different your PhD thesis. Now, in that academic aspect, the researcher have written about the your demand side intervention of the financial inclusion program. Now, when we say demand side, it actually means that whether the people, the needy people, the poor people are getting the benefit of financial inclusion or not. See, one of the main objective of financial inclusion program was that opening a bank account. Yes, when the program comes, then bank definitely would have opened different bank accounts, number of bank accounts of different people. That is the supply side. The banks were the supply side in this matter. But in case of demand side, these are the poor people. Now these people, whether they are using the account or not, you'll find here in the third line I've written about in the researcher written about outreach and actual usage. It means okay, the accounts were opened, but whether the accounts were being utilized by the people or not. So in that, this researcher wanted to study that aspect, the outreach and also the usage part of the financial inclusion program. So that was the gap. So the researcher was of the opinion that there were many studies, but in the study area, if you find out the study area was Sonipur and Kampur district, the actual usage pattern was to be tested. That time it was a claim that Sonipur district was 100% financially included district. So there was a comparison between Sonipur and Kampur district. Then the next part of the research gap, the author of the researcher pointed out was the gap in geographical aspect. Now, since this is a 5 years back thesis, this geographical aspect may not hold good in today's day, but I am taking this example because this was one of the nice way the gaps were presented. That's why I have taken this particular example. Now here you will find out that research has written that there were many studies being done, but most of the studies were considered in the districts of southern India. And these studies she carried out in the northeastern region because from the review of literature, the researcher could find out that not many studies was done in the northeastern region of the country. So when you do a study in the northeastern region, what you are doing, you are adding your findings or you are adding literature to the existing studies. So the moment that this is being done, another researcher can find out that okay, no, in the northeastern region this study was done, but what about the other states? Because this study was done in Assam. So another study can be taken out maybe to understand or find out the behavior of this financial inclusion program, maybe in Meghalaya or Nagaland or Tripura in other states, or maybe in some other parts of the country also. So based on that research gap, the objectives of the study are being framed. This is very important. When you say objectives, it means what actually we are going to study. Remember, a researcher cannot study all the dimensions that will be given by the theoretical background or the review of literature. So you have to take some dimensions on which you can actually have the study. So you have to narrow down your study to a particular extent that your study is being, you are being, or we can say it is being feasible enough to have a study on that particular topic. So you can find out that particular researcher has given some objectives regarding the supply side intervention, the objective number 1 that I have already discussed. Then the second objective was regarding the coverage of the financial inclusion program. when you say coverage, that means actually how many people were actually had opened a bank account. Or say, for example, in financial inclusion program, also the concept was insurance was there. So whether people had insurance policies or not, whether money transfer facilities were given or not, whether people were able to take the loans or not. So that part was the coverage. And then the third objective was regarding the usage, as I already pointed out. That when you talk about usage, it actually means that whether people were actually using those benefits or not. Until unless you use the bank account, the financial inclusion program is of no use. Just opening an account does not mean that you are financially included until unless you are actually using the account. So I'm just giving that example of a particular research. There may be different type of research and you can have a different type of objectives. But if I don't give you an example, maybe it will be difficult for actually you to comprehend what I mean. So I hope some part is clear. Now, if you read that particular PhD thesis, you will find that the researcher did not give any hypothesis. The researchers set some research queries. But when I read it, I thought that these, at least there may be many hypotheses, but this can be one of the hypotheses. So I took the H naught as there is no difference in the level of financial inclusion between the two districts because there were two districts in which the study was being conducted. And there is a difference in the level of financial inclusion between the two districts. So here I just want to have a maybe 30 seconds pause and I want to put a question that what is the difference between a research queries and a hypothesis? You can have the your ideas and you can just put it into the your question answer part or your chat part. So later on you can just take out and just have a discussion on that also. But I'm giving here a pause so that we can at least have a 30-second break to understand that what are the things till now I have discussed about, and also what is the difference between a hypothesis or a research questions. At this time also I want to ask the college whether the speed and everything is all right, because since there is some the weather is a bit inclement here, so I just want to verify whether things are going okay or not. Ashok sir, if you can just, or any one of you. Can anyone please respond whether it's going on okay? Anyone of you can.
Your PPT only visible, sir.
But whether I'm audible or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
just that much I wanted to know. Because since I know everybody has probably done is in the mute one, they have muted the audio, so just want to have a clarification.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So as I was discussing, you can just have an understanding, or you can just think of what is the difference between a hypothesis and the research fields, and then I will discuss about that part. Now, again, as I discussed earlier, the components of empirical research, I have discussed about the introduction. I stopped up to hypothesis testing. That is the part of your introduction. Then the next important part comes in the research, that is the research methodology. See, if while writing a research paper or writing your PhD thesis, if this research methodology part is not clearly defined or these are not scientifically written, then you cannot say, or one cannot say that the research was actually done in a scientific way. Because if you remember in my first slide, I discussed about that this is a scientific process. So whether it is actually not a whether it is a scientific investigation or not depends upon the research methodology part. Now, in the research methodology, and the first important concept is the population and the sample. I think many of you may be aware of what is the population and the sample. But since without discussing at least for a minute about this, it's not wise to continue the your different components of research methodology. Now, when you say population, it means the the universe or the whole your elements that you are going to study. We know that when you say population, one of the very common population study which government of India takes every 10th year is the census survey. So every individual of the country is being surveyed. But in case of our commerce and management research, whether it is actually possible to study the whole population, if, for example, you want to study about the people's behavior regarding buying mobile phones. So, how many people in India have mobile phones? Everyone probably. I'm having a doubt whether I'm barring the children and all. I doubt whether we don't have anyone does not have a mobile phone. So, can we actually study the whole population in that way? The answer is no. So we have to have a sample. So when we discuss about sample, it is actually the representation of the population. And here the important point comes is the sample size. That what will be your sample size based on which you can actually infer your findings at the population. You'll find that many of the researchers say that this my finding is based on the sample and it may not be held in other way. Those are the limitation part. But when you are going for inferential studies, then you have or you are taking a hypothesis, then you have to be very sure that whatever is the finding, that should be reflected on the population, not only on the sample. So population and sample are very important. And while discussing about population and sample, again, two important point comes. One is whether the population is defined or the population is ill-defined. Now, I'm giving you an example here. Say, for example, one wants to study the behavior or the your competencies of the teachers in a particular university. Say, my university, Nagaland University. One researcher wants to study the competency of the teachers of Nagaland University. So here the population is defined. You can have a data that how many teachers are teaching in Nagaland University. And then based on that population, since it is a defined population, you can have a sample size. And there is a formula also when there is a defined population based on the error part that you want to take, you can decide about the sample size. But if it is an ill-defined sample, ill-defined population, sorry, then whether you can have whether it is easy to take the sample, then as in most of the cases it is no. Now I'm giving you an example. When I did my research, I did my PhD, I studied the life insurance market. Now when you say life insurance market, again, many of us take life insurance policies. So whether I can exactly say that how many people in the country have life insurance policies, the answer is no. So here the population is ill-defined. So there is a thumb rule when the population is ill-defined and you know that the size of the population may be too large. Most of the time, you take a sample size of 1,000 or more than 1,000. But there is nowhere it is being written that 1,000 or 1,100 or 1,500 is a good sample size for an ill-defined population, or a 500 sample size is a good sample size for a population. You will not find anywhere it is. And rather, I can also give you an example here that if you see the research papers published in Empirical group of publication, because in commerce and management, this is one of the very good publication house, the MRL groups, you'll find that even there are papers where you'll find the sample size maybe 140 or 150. If you say you study something on accounting, you will find a sample size of 200, 250. Very small sample size. But the findings are also unique, and those have been published in very good reputed journals, having a very good impact factor. And these are also listed in the Scopus. So determination of the sample size based on the population is very important and the first stage in the research methodology process. Then one very important point comes here is the sampling technique. That how actually you are going to take the sample from the population. Now, having said that, there are two types of sampling technique which are most of the researcher takes. One is the probability sampling, another is the non-probability sampling. Now, when we say probability sampling, it is a sampling by chance, or it is possible to pre-specify every potential sample of a given chance that could be drawn from the population, as well as the probability of selecting each sample. So when we say probability, it means if probability sampling, it means every person in that population will have an equal chance of getting selected in the sample. The second one is the non-probability. It is not by chance. It is by the personal judgment of the researcher rather than chance to select the sample elements. Sometimes you'll find that many of the authors say that it is an arbitrary way of collecting the samples from the population because it is on the understanding or the your convenience of the researcher. But in some cases, it is not possible to take non-probability sampling, so we can take. Sorry, sometimes it not is possible to take the probability sampling, so we take non-probability sampling. But let me tell you, when it is a probability sampling technique, this is much wise. It is always better if it is possible. But as I told you that in my that particular topic or that particular example that I have cited of that financial inclusion program, since the population is ill-defined, so it may happen that taking a probabilistic sampling technique may be difficult. But if you can try, you can even find out that you can define the population and you can take a probability step. Now you see in probability sampling there are different types: simple random, systematic, stratified, and cluster. In non-probability sampling, it is the convenience, it is judgment, quota, and snowball. Now, when we say simple random sampling, it is one of the very common. And please, I want to just have a point here that it is simple random sampling. It is not only a randomly selected sample. When you say randomly selected sample, that may be non-probability sampling also. But it is simple random sampling means you have a technique of selecting the sample from the population. Now, when we say it is a simple random sampling, it means every element in the population will have an equal probability of getting selected. One of the very common ways is the lottery method, whereby you assign different numbers say from 1 to 50 to the population, and you pick and choose any based on your sample size, anyone. Say you have a sample of 10, you can choose any 10 out of that 50. Or another method is having a simple random number table. From that also you can select the samples. Based on that, you can select the samples. The second one is the systematic sampling. In systematic sampling, what we do, first we define the population. Say I'm giving an example. Say the population is population size is 1 lakh, and then you want to have a sample of 1,000 out of 1 lakh. So what you have to do, you have to find out the interval, which you denote is by I. So in interval, what we'll do, we'll divide the population by the sample that you want to take. Then it will be 1 lakh divided by 1,000. So your I or the interval is 100. That means every 100 that element in the population you have to select. Now, what will be the starting point? It may be any starting point. Say you take 23 as a starting point. So it will be 23, then 123, 223, 330, 33, and so on. That means every 100 number will be getting selected. That is a systematic sampling. So what happens that only the very first step when you have decided about the first element, the other element does not have the chance to get selected. So this is that way different than the simple random. If you have taken the first to be 24, then the next will be only 124. Next then will be 224. So 223 does not have the chance to get selected. So that is the difference. Next is the stratified sampling. In stratified sampling, what we do, we want to have make some strata from of the population, and every stratum will be each individual stratum will be your homogeneous, but across the stratum it will be heterogeneous, and then based on those different strata, you will select the sample based on in most of the cases the simple random sampling. Then the next type of probability sampling is the cluster. Here, the target population is first divided into mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive subpopulations or clusters. Then a random sampler of clusters is selected as per simple random sampling method. Now, when divide the population based on the clusters, then those individuals, say you have 10 clusters you have made out of your population. So you want to have 3 clusters. So then you can take that 3 clusters based on simple random sampling. Then there are 2 ways of doing this cluster sampling. One is the one-stage cluster, another is the two-stage cluster. In case of one-stage cluster, all elements in each of the clusters are included. Say you take 3 clusters, all the elements of the 3 clusters will be included in your sample. And if you have a two-stage cluster, then select a sample of elements is drawn, probabilistic, from each strata or the each cluster. So these are the different ways of or different techniques of probabilistic way of collecting the samples from the population. Next is the non-probability sampling, and in most of the cases, the non-probability sampling are the very common sampling technique in our empirical research in commerce and management, because in most of the time the researcher find it to be very easy to do. And actually it is easy because if you see the first type, it is convenience. The moment we say convenience, it means it is based on the convenience of the researcher, and nobody can have a question that why you have taken the your 10th element and not the 11th element of the population, because it is based on the researcher's decision how to do it. Sometimes it is also said that in case of convenience sampling, it is selecting the right person. It's selecting the person who was at the who was in the right place at the right time, and because of that, it is least expensive. It is least time consuming. Next is the judgment sampling, whereby you put you have some decisions based on your taking the sample, and it is just like convenience sampling. Only thing is that you have a reason that why you have taken the this particular element of the sample, not the other one. And in some time, what we do that we take the opinion of the experts. Say, for example, you want to have a study on the customer behavior of car many people who are interested in buying cars, then you can have some people who can give an idea that which are the people who you must include in your sample, how they will help you. But again, as I say, that there is not much difference between judgment and conflicts. Only thing is that there you give some reason that why you have selected that particular element of the population. Then the third one is the quota. Now, this is one of the type of a sampling which is a bit different than the other sampling in the nature that when you discuss about quota, it is like first you try to figure out that what is the proportion of the different elements in the population. So you can find out that for your study, your population having a mm, gender ratio of 55 is to 45. That means 55 male and 45 female. Again, I'm saying if it is possible, then in your sample, the sample size should have a representation of 55% male and 45% female. See, in the population, the educational your qualifications are like 60% are graduate, 40% are postgraduate. I'm not taking the other education qualification. Then in your sample also, it should be 60% your graduates and 40% should be postgraduate. So that is the quota sampling. That means based on the population parameters, you are taking the sample elements. Then the last one in non-probability sampling is the snowball. This is a very interesting one. In snowball, in the very first instant, you select some respondents randomly. And after interviewing them, you ask them about other people who can be part of your sample, because their characteristics are same as like the first people or the first group of people you have surveyed. So while you do that, you get the different people based on your own sample units. So one person is giving me the reference of the others, and then you taking that other party. Then the other party will give you some other reference. Then you go on doing it. This is known as snowball technique, whereby what you are doing, you are selecting the sample units based on the reference that has been given by your previous respondents. So these are the different sampling technique to select the sample. This is very important because based on this techniques, actually you will be able to exactly find out which sample you need to be taken for the study and which not to be taken. Then in the next topic I will touch upon is the research design. So there are two type of research design. One is the exploratory research, another is the conclusive research. And under conclusive research, again, there are two types. One is descriptive, other is the causal. Now, when you say about exploratory research, in exploratory research, you are actually trying to figure out what is the problem. You are not setting any hypothesis here. You want to actually identify whether the problem exists or not. Here I will give you the example of my study that I have done. I studied the problem of lemons in the life insurance market. Since because of the paucity of time, I may not have the sufficient time to discuss about in detail what is the lemons problem. But if you have any interest, you can write down my email ID. I can share, or you can find it out even in the Shodhganga. The title is Asymmetric Information Problem in Insurance Market: Studying in Life Insurance Policy Holders. Now here, since lemons problem was there in the second-hand car market, and it was studied by George Akerlof, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics. He did this study in the year 1970, and he found out that the second-hand cars drive out the good, or you can say this, that in the second-hand car market, the bad cars drive out the good cars from the market. So when in a second-hand car market, one person comes to buy a vehicle, the cars which are not so good in quality is able to be sold rather than those cars which are in good state. So what is actually in detail in these, maybe I won't be able to discuss in detail at that present juncture, but you can read it. So I want to study whether the same phenomena exists in the life insurance market or not. So this type of research is known as an exploratory research. Now, in exploratory research, what we can do is that we can set the problem part, and after setting the problem part, then you can take a descriptive research or a causal research to find out the cause and the effect. In most of the time, the researchers use exploratory research to find out the familiarity within an existing phenomenon, and again try to find out new insight to form a precise problem. Next part is the conclusive research, whereby we want to provide information to reach a particular conclusion. And also, since it is a commerce and management and we are dealing with businesses, business has to take a decision based on the findings. So in commerce and management, conclusive research is of utmost importance. Now, in conclusive research, as I say, there are two types. One is the descriptive, another is the your caution. In descriptive, actually you describe the who, what, when, where, and how of the situation. We say that these are in descriptive research, you are just putting the numbers without actually giving the relationship between one set of variables to the other set of variables. I will next I will give you an example to make you understand what actually this is. But in causal research, we want to put a relationship between two set of variables. I'm giving you the example to make the both things understandable to you. When you say causal research, say I want to study the relationship between the expenditure incurred and the sales. Now, I want to try to figure out whether the advertisement expenditures have a relationship with the increase in sales or not. If I can make a relationship, I can correlate that as advertisement is a independent variable, whether it is having any relationship or it can influence the dependent variable here, which is sales. That means whether incurring advertisement expenditure will lead to increase in sales or not. This is causal research. But if I only say that last year my advertisement was 50,000, advertisement expenditure was 50,000 rupees, sales was 1,50,000 rupees, this advertisement expense was 70,000 rupees, sales is 1,70,000 rupees, but I'm not trying to make a relationship between these two, maybe correlation or regression, then we cannot say that it is a causal research. Rather, it is a descriptive research whereby I am just putting down the numbers, maybe in the percentage or the ratio way, but I'm not creating the relationship. So it is important that we in commerce and management try to do causal research, and to do causal research it is also possible that you start with an exploratory research and then have a mix of both descriptive and a causal research. That is in most of the time it is appropriate. Then the next part of the methodology is that how we are collecting the data, because we have taken a sample. So there are these are the different ways of collecting the sample. Most of you may be familiar with the survey method, that is having a questionnaire or a interview schedule. When you say questionnaire, it will be most of the time it is a mailed questionnaire. You can send the questionnaire through post, but in today's world we don't send by post, rather we can have Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, you can use those and you send those to your respondents and then try to collect the data from them, their opinions. But in case of interview schedule, you can take the schedule that will be a structured schedule or a semi-structured schedule, and then you can have you can collect the data from your respondents. And while doing this, let me tell you, both question or interview schedule may have both open-ended and a closed-ended question. Next method is the experiment. Now, when you say experiment, it means you will have a in your some variables which will control. Let me give you an example. Say a researcher wants to study the effect of a particular medicine on a particular disease. So at the very first instant, he uses a 10 mg dose and he sees the behavior of um, the person who has been given the dose of 10 mg. At the next stage, he can give a 20 mg dose and want to try how the person's behave, whether the disease has been controlled or not, or the ailment has been controlled or not. So that we call as the experiment research. Next one is the case study. When you say case study, it means you are taking a particular unit of a unit from a particular problem, and then you are studying in depth of that problem. Again, I want to give you here an example. If you try to study the social entrepreneurship, now if you do social entrepreneurship, again I'm giving a reference of a particular study being done by a researcher. That researcher has done a study on schools, because schools comes under social entrepreneurship, and we all know that schools are also non-profit organizations. So you can take one or two schools and have an in-depth study on that particular school to find out whether they are actually imparting the benefits or whether that is actually leading to the achievement of the objectives of social. You have to have an in-depth study of that case that you have taken. Next is the observation method. In case of observation method, what we do is that, as I told earlier also, you go to the natural environment and have the study. Don't make the respondents understand that you are the researcher. For example, you go to a jewelry shop and you want to study that how the personnel in the jewelry shop are marketing or selling their products, the ornaments. You want to study the behavior of the salesman over there, the security aspect, whether they are showing you the different items, whether they're showing the items based on your requirement, based on your ability to pay for that or not, whether they get irritated or not, whether their behavior is cordial, whether they whether they offer you some beverages, all those. So what one can do is that you can go to that particular jewelry shop and then just behave like you are a customer. Don't say that you are a researcher and you have to study those things, because then they will become conscious. Then they will definitely behave not in the natural way. I'm not saying that they will behave good or bad. I'm saying that they will not behave in the natural way. So what is required then? You go there, you have a feeling that you are just in any other customer. If possible, buy also. If if you are say you have any interest, so that they actually have a feeling that you came and you bought something, that means you are a real customer, and then collect the data and give your findings. That is what we call as the observation method. Last is the extreme research, and in today's world, most and mainly in commerce and management, we want action research. In action research, we cannot say that we'll complete the whole study and then we'll put the findings. In action research, what we do, there is a relationship with the practitioners and the researcher. The researcher puts some facts based on their study. They give it to the practitioners that you apply this and then see how your say sales changes, how mm, your products are different than the other competitors, and based on the feedback that has been given by the your practitioners, you again have changes on your research inputs, so that you can get different research outputs. So in action research, we don't complete the whole research at the very first one, then you give it for testing. Rather, have the data in between and make the necessary changes, and then try to figure out that what at the end actually is needed based on the feedback that you got from the practitioners. Next part, which is very important while framing your questionnaire, because we have already discussed about the questionnaire part, is the measurement scale. Now, these measurement scale are of four types. In sometimes you'll find that the last third and fourth are being mixed in one, but I will suggest that we discuss these four separately. Now, when you say nominal scale, it means those your questions on which you are assigning numbers, but that number as such does not have any meaning, or that numbers will not help you in doing any particular calculation. For example, in your study, say you have 17 males and 30 female in your sample, in your total sample, and you are marking the your male to be 1 and female to be 2. This 1 and 2 does not have any meaning as such, or per se. For that matter, you cannot say number 1 is better than number 2 or number 2 is better than number 1. So the the unit, the questions on which you are having this type of your observations, those are known as nominal scale data. Next is the ordinal scale data, and when it is an ordinal scale data, it means there is a order between the observations. For example, rank. This is a very common example of an ordinal scale data. Say you take an example of the your exams of the students, and then you rank them in the order of 1 to 10. So number 1 will be that student who score the highest, number 2 is the second highest, number 3 is the third highest, and so on and so forth. But we say it is an ordinal scale data because we cannot say the difference between number 1 and number 2 is exactly same than number 2 and number 3. Or even it may so happen that number 1 and number 2, the difference is very small, and the difference between number 2 and number 3 may be very big, and vice versa. So this is an example of an ordinal scale. Next comes the interval scale. In interval scale, you set the questions in such a way that these questions are being answered by the responses in a continuum. The Likert scale type data collection method is an example of interval scale data, whereby you can start with not satisfactory to or extremely unsatisfied to extremely satisfied. So here we can say these say in this 5-point Likert scale, the points are extremely unsatisfied, unsatisfied, neutral, satisfied, and extremely satisfied. So difference between extremely unsatisfied and dissatisfied is same than satisfied and extremely satisfied. Again, we cannot say for exactly what is the percentage method that they are saying, but in this continuum, the differences between extremely unsatisfied to neutral to satisfied and extremely satisfied are same. So we also say that this does not have a natural zero origin, and if we finally get an equation, the equation is written as y is equal to a plus bx. The last one is the ratio scale, and this is one of the most powerful type of scale if you can able to collect the data in this. The examples may be collecting the information about height, weight, then population tools. In ratio scale data, there is a exact zero origin, and we can say that difference between say salary of 20,000 to 20,000 and 40,000 is as same as the difference between your 40,000 80,000. We can say 40,000 was double of 20,000, 80,000 is also double of 40,000 in that way. So this is a ratio scale, and here the equation we use is y is equal to bx. So measurement scale, and rather, I will have just one humble suggestion that when one frames the question, if some of you are doing have started research or you are just developing the questionnaire and all, then have a combination of different type of measurement scale in your questionnaire, which helps in applying different statistical techniques to find out a conclusion. Because already we have discussed that we are interested in causal research and not only on exploratory research. Now, when you design your questionnaire or the interview schedule, you have to have a understanding about the scale evaluation, and that means whether your scale is an efficient one to collect the data or not. Now, while doing it, you will find that there are two types. There may be in different presenters may have different ways of putting the classifications of scale evaluation. But in what the matter, I believe that these two concepts, reliability and validity, is of utmost importance than the other concepts. But reliability and validity should be always there. Now, in case of reliability, it means it is concerned with consistency, accuracy, and predictability of the scale. That means what you are measuring and what are the data that you are getting is having an internal consistency. So these are not, it means that one is marking only extremely satisfied, or extremely unsatisfied. There is a internal consistency between the data that you have collected. Another is the validity. In validity, it refers to the question whether we are measuring what we want to measure. Now I'm giving an example here. Say even you go to a vegetable vendor and he is using the old type of weighing machine, the two-sided weighing machine, and you did not notice that one side of the weighing machine is always tilted. And while doing it, your problem is that when you buy 1000 gram of potato, you are getting only 950. Second time also you go, the same problem will come, you will get 950. Third time also 950, and other people also when they will get 950. Now it means whether it is a valid one, no, because there is a mistake. So this is important that what you are putting into the question or in your question, this is the instrument which is helping you in collecting data, and hence this instrument should, to the extent possible, should be a good one. Or I can say the strong word, it should be to the extent possible perfect to collect your responsible data. Now, reliability are of mainly two types. One is test retest reliability, and another is the Cronbach alpha. Now, in case of test retest, what do? You use the question, go to the respondents, collect the data, and then keep the data with you. Go after again some days and again collect the data just to find out the answers which was given previously and the answers are given now are having the consistency or not. But while doing it, the first and the most important question comes is that when you will go to collect the second set of questions, second time, the question remains the same. Whether you will go after 1 day or it will go after 1 week, or it will go after 1 month, 2 months, or 1 year? When that question comes. So you cannot have an objective answer for that, because if you go too early, then it will so happen that the respondent remembers all the answers that he has given, or if you go too late, he forgets everything, and between that time also his priorities have changed. Earlier, whatever he said as satisfied, now it may turn to be unsatisfied because the situation has changed, his behavior is changed. So that problem comes in the retest reliability test. Another is that even that person may not have the interest to give a reply to the same questions that you have posted, say 1 week back. He may get irritated. He may not be in the same frame of mind in which you were earlier. So the subjectivity comes, and the moment subjectivity comes, the researcher will have a big problem in actually going for retest reliability test. So what we do, we go for a statistical technique which is known as Cronbach alpha. Here we want to study the internal consistency between the respondents based on the responses you have gathered, and then you try to figure out whether you can rely on that instrument to have the conclusion. Now how and this Cronbach alpha has a score between 0 and 1. If you find a score of 0, that means there is no internal consistency. If you have a score of 1, you have a perfect internal consistency, and both these two extremes in most of the cases you will not find. You will have a score between 0 and 1. And hence it is said that if you get a score of 0.6 and above, it means your instrument is a reliable instrument. If you get a score of 0.8 and more, your instrument is more reliable. So how you calculate the Cronbach alpha? Nowadays, you see most of the researchers use software packages to analyze that data, and one of the very common software package in social science and commerce and management research is the SPSS. So in the SPSS, if you put the variables, that Cronbach alpha is calculated. So what I want now is that I want to share one SPSS spreadsheet, and if everything goes fine, then I will just show how to calculate the Cronbach alpha. So I'm just stopping this screen sharing for the time being. This PPT, I will come back to the PPT later on, and I will go to my SPSS sheet. So anyone from MES college, you please confirm whether this once I change it to SPSS, whether it has actually come or not.
Sure, good.
Sir, please
Yes,
see.
sir,
I have.
visible,
Is it visible?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the spreadsheet, and this is a research as in the still in the process. I collected the data. There are 119 respondents. It is on auditor independence, and here I can test since I have collected the data in ratio scale or nominal scale, and also in interval scale, and main questions are in the interval scale. I can check the reliability here. So to do that, see, this is a spreadsheet. You go to the analysis part, you click on analysis, analyze, and then you'll find here scale. From scale, in the first option that has been given is the reliability analysis. Just click on the reliability analysis, and then you get a pop-up window whereby in the left hand side you have all the variables that I have entered, and in the items I have to put the those variables in which I want to test the reliability by using the Cronbach alpha method. I think up to this page it has come, this pop-up window has come. It's visible, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, okay. So see, I have 8 questions on in auditors independence. So I'm selecting those, and I put it into the item. Then in the you'll find in the left hand side there is a model, and in the model you'll find, if you click here, it's on normally it always take by default alpha, but I'm showing that there are others also. But you click on alpha. This is the Cronbach alpha I'm referring to. So let the model to be alpha, You need not have to do anything with statistics and just press OK. And you see, this is an output window of SPSS. Now, if you see this reliability scale, or you'll find the case processing summary. You'll find that there are total valid cases 119, total valid cases 119 because everybody has responded to all the questions that was put into. And you find that in the reliability statistics in the left hand side, it is given as Cronbach alpha. Number of items hit, because on 8 questions I have tested this, and you'll find the score to be 0.766. Now it means when it is 0.766, it is more than zero point 0.6, and I can have an I'm assured that my this scale that I have used, or my question that I have used, is a reliable one. So this I just wanted to show you so that actually you understand that how to calculate the Cronbach alpha. So again, this part I will stop sharing and I will go to the PPT again. So I think the PPT again is visible. Sir, can you just confirm whether
Visible,
the
sir. Visible, sir.
yeah, okay, okay. So we have already discussed about taste, retest, and Cronbach alpha. Next is the validity. As I said, in validity, the main thing is that we want to see the question whether we are measuring what we want to measure. And I've already discussed the concept. In that, there are 3 types. One is content, then concurrent and predictive validity test. Now, in case of content, it means that what are the questions that you have put. Say, for example, I want to study the your behavior of the people in an airline industry, and I want to taste that, or I want to study that in that airline company, or in for that matter, say in flight, how the crew are behaving, and I am putting 15 questions. And while putting the 15 questions, I have omitted one important question, is that the cordial behavior of the crew, because that is one of the very important aspect of in any airline industry. We know that the crew are very cordial, their behavior is good, they help the people in answering their queries. So when we do content validity test, it is always better that you, while framing the question, you discuss with someone who is having knowledge about the aviation industry, so that they can guide you what are the questions to be put. Second one is the concurrent validity. In concurrent validity, what we do is that, say there is an already an established technique of collecting the data, and I'm coming out with a different technique. So the second technique, or the new one, I will try to figure out whether there is a correlation between the previous one and the current one. So that is the concurrent validity. If there is a high correlation, that means the new technique of collecting data is verifying. The third one is the predictive validity. One of the very good example of predictive validity is the entrance examination. You see, most of the reputed B schools, they take the score of CAT. So what actually we're doing, we want to say that one who has done good in the CAT examination, they have a very good percentile in CAT, will do good in MBA also. Whether actually that prediction is right or not, that is definitely a big question. But every year the B schools are taking the students based on the predictive value that they have got from the CAT examination. So this part, scale evaluation, I will suggest everyone that this is very, very important, because if your scale is not reliable, or the scale does not serve the purpose what you want to study, then the findings will be all just for the sake of putting the findings, but it will not have any real life importance, or real life what we say practicality of the those findings, and you cannot implement those findings in any industry, or for that matter. So till now, whatever I have discussed was regarding the research methodology. Next, I will be going to again the important part is that hypothesis testing and the data analysis part. Now, while discussing about hypothesis testing, in the very first instant, I have discussed with you one query, that what is the difference between hypothesis testing and research questions, if you remember. So maybe you have come out with your own suggestions or own ideas. For me, I say that when you put research questions, you need to have to test the research questions with any statistical technique. But when you formulate hypothesis, you have to test it with some statistics to find out whether you can accept the hypothesis or you don't accept the hypothesis. Now, hypothesis testing is having these 5 steps. At the very first instant, you formulate the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Second is select the appropriate test. You then choose the level of significance. You collect the data and calculate the p-value, and finally draw the conclusion based on the p-value and the level of significance. Now, what is null hypothesis? When you say null hypothesis, is the hypothesis of no difference. An alternative is that which you will find out if the null hypothesis is rejected. Now, why you say null hypothesis? Why you test the which one we test? The question is whether we test null or we test alternative. The answer is we test the null hypothesis because since this is a test of no difference and we want to be unbiased, we test the null hypothesis, and if that is rejected, we can say it is the alternative hypothesis is significant. It is significant. Now I'm taking since if I don't give an example, it will be easy to actually make you understand that what is the way of doing the hypothesis thing. So I've taken an example from one particular book. I've referred all this at the last. So here you find that you that particular there is a business, a shop, which is considering the introduction of an internet shopping service, provided that 40% of the internet users shop via the internet. So we'll try to find out that if 40% of the internet users, that means many of us are internet users, but it means what means that my father is not buying any product through e-commerce platform. So these particular business want to see that if the more than 40% of the internet users are buying the goods from e-commerce platform, then this particular shop also, say this shop name is X Limited, this shop will also introduce the system of buying their goods from the e-commerce platform. So here the H naught is, and we have taken it as a P or phi, we can say it is point less than or equal to zero point 0.4. It is phi because we are taking a proportion. If it would have been a number, we would have taken as mu because we are testing the and these are all population parameters. So we are taking the null hypothesis on the on your population, and we're saying that the phi is if it is less than equal to zero point 0.4, and alternative hypothesis is phi is greater than zero point 0.4. So we have formulated the hypothesis based on what actually we want to do. Then, assuming the distribution to be a normal distribution, that means when you say normal distribution, it means a find a bell-shaped curve whereby all the data that you have collected will be near the mean, and there will be very few data will be far from the mean, or sometimes we say that those are the outliers. So most of the data will be concentrated near the mean. So assuming this data that you have collected is having a normal distribution, and we can have a normal, you can test whether your data is a normal distribution, distributed data or not. That techniques are also there, and we find out that yes, this is a normally distributed data, and we are using the Z statistic. So the formula for Z statistic is it is the P minus phi. Now P here is the your sample proportion. I will just show you that P is the sample proportion. You can find out in this thing. P is the sample proportion. So P minus phi is the population parameter divided by sigma P. And sigma P you can calculate by root over phi, that is a population parameter, multiplied by 1 minus phi divided by n, that is your sample size. Now you have to choose the level of significance. Now see, whenever you are collecting sample, there is always a risk that there will be some errors, because if you have done a whole population, you've studied the whole population, then you can say for exactly that everything is correct. But when you are taking a sample, that means you are putting the sample findings on the population. There is a risk that there will be some errors. So there, in that case, there are two types of errors. One is type 1 error, another is a type 2 error. Type 1 is error, one error is denoted by alpha, and type 2 error is denoted by beta. So when it is a type 1 error, it is the type 1 error will come when you reject the null hypothesis, when actually the hypothesis is true. And in case of type 2 error, it is not rejecting the null hypothesis when it is false. And we say in research methodology part that type 2 error is far is more dangerous than the type 1 error. Now, we are taking a level of significance as alpha, and you can understand that we are writing alpha is 0.05, that means 5%. That means we are we can have an error of 5%. That means whatever we are finding will be 95% sure. In commerce and management and social science research, in most of the cases, we have our study based on 5% level of significance, but you can also have 1% level of significance or 10% level of significance. But in most of the cases, it is always advisable that you have an level of significance to be 5%, which means you are only 95% sure that whatever is your finding, that is correct, and you are rejecting the null hypothesis based on that. Now, in this particular example that I have given you, the shop is collecting data from 30 internet users, and here find the shop has found out that out of the 30, 17 people in 17 internet users indicated they use the internet for shopping. So here sample proportion is 17 divided by 30. 17 is means those people who have said that yes they buy the goods from the e-commerce platform, divided by the sample size, that is 30, and you get a sample proportion P as 0.567. Now, first we have to calculate the sigma P, and you can find out that sigma P is root over 0.4. If you remember, this is your P multiplied by 1 minus P. So P is 0.4. I can show the formula once more. If you set, you can see it is 5. That is your 5 multiplied by 1 minus 5 divided by n. So you see here the 5 is your 0.4 that from the hypothesis that we have taken, 0.4 into 1 minus 5. 1 minus 5 means 1 minus 0.4 is 0.6 divided by n, that is your sample size, that is 30. So you get the sigma p to be 0.089. Now the test statistic Z, that formula again I want to just write down. This is P minus 5 divided by sigma P. You see, P minus 5 divided by sigma P. So P is 0.567, that is sample proportion, minus 5, that is 0.4, that is in the hypothesis we've taken, null hypothesis, H naught is less than equal to 0.4, divided by the sigma P, that is 0.089. So you get the test statistic to be 1.88. So when you see this Z score in the Z table, you will find that P value when the Z score is 1.88, this is 1.88, 1.88 at 0.05 level of significance, that means 5% level of significance is 0.0301. If you change the level of significance, that this 0.0301 will also change, is 0.0301. So you have got this particular p value based on your sample study. This is important. This is based on your sample study. Next step, you have to draw the conclusion. Now, how do you draw the conclusion? This is important. We say if the p value is less than equal to significance level, that is alpha, then you have to reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis, and you say that the result is statistically significant. And if the p value is greater than the significance level alpha, then we fail to reject the null hypothesis and we say the result is not statistically significant. See, sometimes it also find that you will get that if p value is greater than significance level alpha, then we accept the null hypothesis. But we normally in today's research we don't say that if we have failed to reject the null hypothesis, it means that we have accepted the null hypothesis, because there may be other techniques also to actually test whether it is true or not. So we don't say like this. We say that we fails to reject the null hypothesis and the result is not statistically significant. So what we are doing to draw the conclusion, we are comparing the p value that we have calculated from the sample, and then you are comparing it with the significance level, that is alpha. So in our example, we have calculated the p-value to be 0.0301. You can see in the previous slide it is showing as 0.0301, and the level of significance is 0.05. So if p-value is less than 0.05, then we have to reject the null hypothesis, and hence we have written that since the p-value is 0.0301, which is less than 0.05, it means there is an evidence that the proportion of internet users who shop via the internet is significantly greater than zero point 0.4. So now just go to the hypothesis. What the shop wants? The shop wants that if we find that more than 40% of the population will shop via internet, then it will introduce these online shopping service. So since we have found out that yes, the finding is that for more than 40% of the internet users will shop via internet, hence this shop will introduce the e-commerce facility for its business. So in that way, we are testing the hypothesis and we are finding out the conversion. Then the other thing that, or the other in extending the discussion regarding hypothesis testing and the findings, when you go for the other data analysis, you will find that there are two ways. One is descriptive, one is inferential. So whatever you discuss is the inferential part, and in descriptive part, we just put the your findings on just on the percentages or on the numbers. We are not framing any particular relationship. But as I said earlier also, that since it is a causal research, we have to have an inferential data analysis. And in case of inferential data analysis, will have a cause and effect relationship. There will be an independent variable and there will be a dependent variable. Now, I want to give one example since because the whole world is going through this pandemic. We have found out that in the last 2 3 months, the sudden increase in the sales of hand sanitizers and other protective gears. That means your mask and all. So whether if one could not study the, and because prior to that, probably very few people used to buy hand sanitizers and masks. Now, there will be one study to find out whether there is any relationship between the advertisement expenditure and the increase in sales of these particular business houses, whether there is actually any relationship. So if we are trying to build that, those are known as the inferential statistics, because we want to have a relation, we want to study the relationship between different variables. Now, when you do this inferential statistics under the data analysis part, there are two types of tests that we do. One is the parametric test, and another is the non-parametric test. Now, when you say parametric test, you can apply parametric test provided the data is normally distributed. As I said earlier regarding this, I'm not repeating even for this normal distribution, but you can do parametric test only and only when the data is normally distributed. But if the researcher is unsure that whether the data is normally distributed or not, and also your software or the SPSS software shows that the data is not normally distributed and you want to have a distribution free test, then we go for non-parametric test. Now, in case of non-parametric test, the thing is that since you are having a distribution free test, you are not concerned about the normality of the data. Most of the time, these non-parametric tests are being done in ordinal or interval scale data. And the parametric tests are your metric data. For parametric test, if you are having a one sample test, then there is a Z test, Z or T statistics. The Z statistics already I have discussed in that particular example of hypothesis testing. And the corresponding non-parametric test for Z statistic is the sign test under non-parametric. If you want to have a two independent sample using T test or Z test, then the corresponding non-parametric test is met with the U test. If you have two paired samples using T or Z test, then the corresponding non-parametric test is the sign test and the Wilcoxon matched pair rank test. If you have F test and ANOVA under parametric test, then you have Kruskal-Wallis test under the non-parametric test. So whether you apply parametric test or non-parametric test is dependent upon your distribution of your data. If it is not distributed, apply parametric or you apply non-parametric if you want to have a distribution free test. So till now, we have discussed about introduction, the research methodology, the hypothesis testing, and the data analysis part. So the final question comes: that why you are doing all this? The answer is we want to have a discussion, and based on that discussion, you want to conclude, and after conclusion, you want to give suggestions. Because at the end of the day, if you are studying a problem, you are studying an issue. So if the research is not pointing out that what is to be done, then the research as such is of no use. So under the discussion, what we first do is that we summarize the whole findings based on your data. You try to figure out what are the different variations you have got, whether your study is your findings are similar to the findings done by the other researcher. If you remember, we discussed about review literature. So either you can have a similarity between the findings, or you may have a dissimilarities between the findings. Both the ways it is correct. Either you may support a finding, or you have a different opinion on the findings. Most important part is you have to summarize the findings in a very meaningful manner, because remember, this research methodology part, statistical technique part, the researcher may be aware of all these, but the reader may not have much understanding. So if you are not summarizing the finding in a very meaningful manner, then the reader may not have much interest to go into your methodology part or statistical calculations part to find out that what has been done. Maybe another researcher may be having some interest, but the reader may not have that much of interest. And since because of that, you will find that in most of the research papers of most of the researchers, they sometimes just avoid to read the whole in detail, just concentrate on the finding part, because sometimes it may be a bit different to understand, or maybe a bit difficult to understand. And based on the major findings, you have to draw the conclusion. You have to say in clear terms that what actually is your understanding of the study that you have undertaken. After doing a PhD for 5 years or writing a research paper taking 1 or 1.5 years, if you are unable to conclude that what actually I want to mean, starting from the first stage on introduction, then reader will also not have any importance or will not have any interest. And then in PhD thesis, so definitely we find in research papers also sometimes you can find is the proposed suggestions. Now, when you say suggestions, it means that what has to be done. Say, for example, that financial inclusion issue that I have raised, that the finding was that people were opening up the accounts because because the bank officials came to the village and they opened the account, but hardly any people are using it. So what is the then, why exact, whether actually the financial inclusion program was a success? That was a big question. I'm not saying whether it is a success or not, because it is not good for any researcher in that way to just say without testing it, but definitely will have some issues over there. So the suggestions are given according to the findings and the conclusions that have been drawn. And finally, you have to give scope of future research, because you have studied only some part of what you have found out. You have not studied, or the researcher has not studied everything. So whatever has been left out, one researcher has not studied, that can be given as a scope for further research. So these are the important components in the discussion part. Whatever I have presented today, I have referred to these particular sources. I have listed it out, and please remember that reference is very, very important. And in today's world, when there is a different softwares and very strong softwares, it is very easy to find out the plagiarism. So it is always better that when you are referring to some work, please cite it And don't hesitate in doing that, because the more the citation, that means more one researcher has read. So it is always important. So in that way, when you cite the sources, you are also rest assured that there is no issue of plagiarism, and you are taking care of the your ethical issues in research, which is also very important in today's world. That you should, I'm just my power is slowing down. I'm just plugging it. Just wait for a while. Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, I have to plug it for power. So this was all about the presentation regarding the empirical research. See, there may be, as I told earlier, also there may be different ways also how the things are being presented. What I have understood on the way I have carried out my research, this was just an idea on that. I'm not saying that whatever I have presented is the perfect one, or this is a watertight way of doing a research. There will be some variation, some difference, but I can at least tell you for surety that the components that I have included are different, are has to be there in any research or every topic you take, and try to have as elaborate as possible, so that the reader have interest in our research papers and the different publications and the thesis that we publish. Thank you from my side. Now I will just request the participants, you have any query or any issues to this, you are most welcome. To the extent possible, I will try to answer, and even you can connect with me with my email ID that I have given in my first in my presentation, and I will share this PPT with the college, so you can just have a copy of it. Since I have already referred the sources, so I don't have any problem with plagiarism. You can take, and you can, if you find it to be of use, you can please use it for your own consumption. Thank you from my side.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable opinions. Sir, it's now time for discussion. We have sent the doubts to your chat box. Would you please clarify those ones?
Okay.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out.
Okay. If there occurs any inconvenience, please tell us that.
It's there in Q&A.
Yeah, we have sent it to your chat box.
Then I can stop sharing the page, no? Then I think I can reply.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, chat box, right?
Yeah.
Madam, there are many questions. That means how to take all this. So can you please guide me?
Yeah.
Because there are 99. So then I can do one thing. I can just read out from the starting one. Then I will know which are the questions being raised.
Yeah, there being a time limit. We can't answer all the questions. Okay.
No, because initially these are, I think, only morning questions. There may not be much questions, but
Yeah.
in the later half there will be some queries.
Yeah, we can send the PPT later.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
I'm just checking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one question is what are conceptual papers? See, there is one way of doing a research which we call as a review of literature. In that, you will not have any hypothesis testing. You are just reviewing the different literature and trying to have a conclusion based on the review literature that you have found out. So why we do this? Because that becomes a part of the exploratory research. We are just adding our own ideas to the research that have already been done. So in that way, conceptual research you can do if you are very strong in doing a research in the secondary sources. So that may be the answer for that.
Thank you, sir.
There is also one more question, and whatever questions
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can see, I'm just referring to those.
It's
There is
not
a
possible.
question: which formula should be applied at the time of taking the sample, which determines the true sample size? So I told in earlier in while presentation that then the sample size formula is there. You can read in any research methodology book. You'll find only thing is that your standard error is important. So more the if you want to limit your error, more will be the sample size. So but in detail you can just read it from the methodology book. But since there was a paucity of time, but if you want, as I told you that I have given my email ID, you can post it to me also. So to the extent possible, I can again in one-to-one basis I can clarify the doubts, and I'll
Yeah.
be definitely doing that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Then this was that quota sampling is a probability, then in fact it is not to which category. No, there is one observation that quota sampling is a probability sampling, but actually it is not a probability sampling. Yes, there is some actually the question has been raised because sometimes we find that quota and cluster sampling are same, but actually that is not. Quota is a non-probability sampling. There is one question: study of financial literacy among the rural poor. Which scale I can use for my study? I will suggest that as I told earlier, also when you are deciding about the scale, try to have different types of the scale, starting from nominal to ratio. And I will suggest that the example that I given regarding financial inclusion cases, we find in the Shrot Ganga. Please see that you will have some idea from that.
Thank you, sir.
Then there was a question: how and where do we apply parametric and non-parametric test? Already I have told that if it is a normal distributed data, then it is parametric test. If it is distribution free, it is a non-parametric test.
Thank you, sir.
Hypothesis bias the research in the data collection. There is one observation that the hypothesis bias the researchers in their data collection. See, if there is a bias, then you are not having perfect research. So we cannot be judgmental. The subjective matters has to be taken care of, and hypothesis has to be framed in a such a way that you have the option to test it against the data. Whether you reject the null hypothesis or you fail to reject the null hypothesis, that is different. Type 1 and type 2 error already have discussed about this part, so you can just read my slides.
So someone asked the check the reliability of questionnaire is important.
Yes, sorry sir, can you please repeat once?
To check the reliability of questionnaire is very important or
Yes,
not, sir?
no, it is very very important. When you are doing empirical research, you have to test the reliability and the validity. But since reliability already the software helps, so it is not tough to test the reliability. So one can do one thing. You can have a, because when you are doing, you are taking sample, go for a pilot testing and see whether reliability is there or not. Then you can collect the full data.
But what about the questionnaires not based on the Likert skill, sir?
No, even if it is not based on the Likert scale, then also you can test the reliability. Say, for example, you have a ratio scale data. See, when we are testing the reliability, we are only testing the part that whether respondents are replying in the different way or not. We are trying to have an internal consistency of the responses. If it is so happen that say in your question, you are having a study on income and everybody say my income is 20,000, and we have a group of five groups of income up to 20,000, 20,000 to 40,000, and so on and so forth. So it means what? That means we have taken the data only from one particular group. Also, it may so happen that people, while marking it, have not given any importance what is the income part. That's why we take we do the reliability test.
Okay. So then another questions from research scholars. I'm
Huh.
studying consumer behavior. Then which sampling method should I adopt?
Sir, as I already have discussed that it is always better to have a probability sampling if possible. But again, the moment it comes as consumer behavior, in most of the cases, even we also find that researchers take non-probability sampling. There is no harm in taking non-probability sampling, but only one caveat I want to say: if it is a non-probability sampling, please see that later on your sample size is large enough. If you find normally distributed data, then it is good because you can have a parametric test. But we cannot say, we cannot have a definition that it has to be only probabilistic sampling. You can have non-probability sampling also. But which one is based and how to do this depends upon the scholar.
Then sir, another question is hypothesis is assumption which can prove or disprove.
Yes, exactly. It is an assumption because that you have taken based on the review of literature that one has done, based on the objective one has set, and what you assume is based on what has been done earlier or in a different environment. Now, when we are collecting the data, we want to test whether in my environment that works or not. For example, that hypothesis testing, I have taken an example of this internet shop. Now, because of this pandemic, there was a time when people stopped going to the market and they were depending upon the e-commerce platform. So whether it could take, maybe it may so happen that if earlier it was 40%, now 60% of the people are actually doing e-commerce because they don't want to go to the shops because of the social distancing issues. So it may change from situation to situation. Hence, hypothesis and assumption which may be disproved in one particular situation, again it may be approved in a different situation.
Yeah, nice
So that is
explanation,
my
sir. Nice explanation, sir.
yeah. Thank you, sir.
Shall we conclude, sir? Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dear YouTube viewers, the registration form will be posted in the description box and chat box. And you may please fill it before 1 o'clock today to get the feedback form. So can we wind up the session, sir?
Yeah. Thank you,
It's
ma'am.
very informative and we are very thankful to you. Really, extremely, we are very thankful to you and it is very helpful to the research scholars. Thank you very much, sir. And for wind up the section, please, I call upon Mr. Jidesh KS, CDC coordinator, to have a formal welcome. Formal out of thanks, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. It's me, Jidesh KS, Director CDC.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable resource person, Dr. Jasodit Debanat, our beloved principal Magin sir, Ashok sir, Rabadevi madam, and present participants, and also my dear colleagues. We organize the third webinar related to empirical research in commerce and management. I thanks IQC and Research Forum for giving me the opportunity to express my gratitude on this special event. It is one of the auspicious day in the history of our college. Today, we have hosted the third biggest webinar with more than 1,000 representatives from various colleges and universities.
Heartfelt congratulations, sir.
Yes. On behalf of MES College Erumely and participants of this event, I express my heartfelt thanks to our resource person, Dr. Jasojit Debanand, Assistant Professor, Nagaland University. Thank you, sir, for your informative presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Then I would like to thank all the respected representatives who have blessed us with their presence in this webinar. I express gratitude to our beloved principal Mahinaman sir for organizing such type of seminars in our organization. And the real heroes of our college is IQC team, Research Forum, IT Cell. The team behind the screen are they. I express sincere gratitude to their efforts making this event as a dreamful ending. The synchronized teamwork helps to make it as a grand success. And also, I give thanks to our management give the wholehearted support to organize such events. Finally, I once again thank the resource person, respected representatives and officials of participating from various colleges and universities. Thanks again for making this webinar a success. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Madam, I'm just then leaving the meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank you from all of the team.
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. We are winding the session, sir.